regular Board of Education meeting Tuesday, May 24th at 6:34. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we begin, I would like us to have a moment of silence, and I apologize if people are not aware of the tragedy that is unfolding in Texas of another deadly shooting. So a moment of silence for the families and community, that horrific nightmare that they're going through. Thank you. Roll call, starting with Vinnie, please.
Vinnie Catadello.
Steve Kozik.
Mike Russo.
Debbie Sherman.
Stephanie Miller.
Nicole Libby McGrath.
Nick Tombrowski.
Okay, are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none. Board of, Deb, wanted,
Sure. Motion to approve the May 9th Board of Education minutes.
Second.
any discussion, changes? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Would you like to speak? Our one audience member? Okay. Welcome. So no audience participants. Any board correspondence?
None.
MOU request, Robert?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've changed is the protocol for MOUs. The prior superintendent did not bring those MOUs to the board, and we had talked about that earlier in the year, that all memorandums of understanding should be brought to the board for the board to be in consideration, and then to allow Stephanie to arrange or to come with the final negotiations and to sign the MOUs. So what I did is I brought forward to the board finance committee on Thursday 4 potential MOUs. One dealing with contract language, which changes the credit level. Right now, the contract requires 30 credits in order to advance to the next salary scale, and we're putting language in that requires the 30 credits to be graduate level or higher. So it's clarifying, it's helping the district make sure that it's a level playing field. So it's just clean up language within the contract, which makes sense. The second deals with the current track coaches. We split the head coach into 3 assistant head coaches. That was done this current season. So the MOU is to address and fix that so you can pay those appropriately. The third MOU deals with the fall play and the spring musical. These are positions that historically have been paid through revenue of the play, but there had been nothing in the books in terms of what those people should be paid, that those positions even existed. So rather than continue paying people a phantom salary for those positions, it really needs to be outlined in the actual contract and the MOU and the stipends. We also need to make it retroactive for this year for the fall play and the spring musical. So in order to pay these individuals out of money that's sitting in the revenue, I want to get this MOU signed so you can pay these individuals appropriately. And then the fourth one deals with the stipends. The contract for the Education Association for the teachers in the district outlines all the academic, all the extracurricular, and all the athletic stipends that teachers would get, anywhere from clubs to coaching. That stipend list got modified 2 years ago in a separate MOU with the former superintendent and the association. It was refined again last year. The goal of changing those stipends annually is to reflect the current needs of the school. So for example, there might be a club that had huge enrollment one year, but there's a different level of interest that students have in that school for the following year. Or there's a need to change the amount of coaching that we have. In one case, for the middle school, we're proposing decreasing a track coach and replacing with an intramural coach to further have opportunities for more students to engage in athletics in the middle school. So the idea is to bring to the board every May what the list of the stipends would be for the following year. Stipends are not permanent assignments. Stipends are annual assignments, so teachers apply. If there are not any teachers that apply for a stipend, anyone else in the district can apply for it. In some cases, a parent might have a stipend, but it comes from the stipend list from the teacher. So I'm bringing forward to you the recommended list of stipends, and I've outlined in the MOU memo that's attached in board docs what those changes would be for next year. And then it's the long list that gets attached to that. So the goal would be to answer your questions about these 4 MOUs, and then for you to enter into a motion allowing Stephanie to have final negotiations with myself and with the Education Association. I already have spoken to our attorney who is working on the actual contract language for the MOUs, pending approval for the MOUs tonight. And there is a motion in the board docs agenda if you want to go into executive session to discuss these specifically, or if you just want to go ahead and have a motion to allow Stephanie to come into final negotiations with these.
I guess that now we're open for discussion. Actually, we're not discussing the particular people. So I guess the question is, do you want to discuss, did you have a chance to look at the MOUs? Do you have questions? Do you want to go into executive session, or do you want to just make a motion to let me, the finance committee kind of went through and we gave our 2 cents in, no pun intended. I know the finance committee is comfortable with the content that you have at this time.
Don't have any questions. I'm fine with just voting on it.
Yeah, okay, so Deb, do you want to read that motion?
What motion?
Oh, I'll do it.
I don't have it.
I'm sorry, I have it right here. No, second one. Motion to authorize the board, should I do it? Because it's about me.
Here.
Yeah, here.
Want me to read it?
Where is it?
Right there.
Can you make it smaller?
Yeah.
The board doc that they uploaded.
Oh,
Touch screen.
okay. grab it.
Motion to authorize the board chairperson to execute memoranda of understanding with the Oxford Education Association regarding stipend and degree definition issues pursuant to the general terms and conditions discussed by the board in executive, well, we didn't go into executive session. And subject to further negotiation between the superintendent and the Oxford Education Association.
Second.
Any further discussion or clarification?
We're just gonna remove the executive session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
because we didn't
Just
go into
discuss.
executive
Right.
session.
Yeah.
right, gotcha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Robert, your report. Oh, I thought that covered both, no? Non-certified? Okay, so then it's non-certified? Is that what you're talking about? Non-certified, non-bargaining association staff salaries? Okay, I thought those were all in, so we have to do the same motion again for this?
Different though.
Okay,
So the second component of this is we have staff members that are not in any bargaining association. These are at-will employees or employees that we have come up with a standalone contract for. Everybody ranging from director of facilities to administrative assistant to monitors and tutors within the schools. In the past, these have just been negotiated directly between the superintendent and those individuals. It's common practice in most school districts for the board to have a motion in May or June to approve these salary requests in block. If there's a need to discuss individual people and the salaries, what we would do is we would table this item to the next meeting, notifying the individuals that their salaries would be discussed in executive session, and if they wanted to request that that be a public discussion, they'd have the opportunity to. I did share the stipend, I did share the salary list with you in private via email. It's not a public document. It's also listed in board docs under executive content. So if there's a comfort level to vote on these salaries as a block tonight, we can do so, or we can table to the next meeting. We can go into executive session at the next meeting. And these were also discussed person by person and in detail in the finance committee. So I'm not too sure if Mike wants to address that at all.
So thoughts on this? Denise, Steve? So you said the motion would be different.
The motion would be as simple as the board approves the salary request presented by the superintendent.
So again, do you feel like this is up to you, or do you feel like you need more discussion on this, or are we good to just approve it?
Yeah. This was what's already in the budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
And finance subcommittee went through this
Right.
pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so Deb, do you want to just say motion?
Motion to, for the board to approve the salary request as presented by the superintendent,
For non-certified staff?
non-certified staff.
I'll second, but if they might be, make sure.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Okay, I do not have anything to report.
Now we're into my report.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, my head is spinning.
My head is spinning too. And I'm going to address something that was not originally in my report, and that's student safety. And clearly, our primary responsibility is to educate our students, but our number one priority is to ensure that every student, every staff member that comes to school every morning goes home safely. And when there is a travesty like this that took place in Texas, in any place in the world, it hits home because it could be us here. And when this happens elsewhere, it's our responsibility to make sure that our students and staff feel cared for, feel supported, have a place to go if they have concerns, if they're scared, if they're anxious, and we're going to have some of those. So this evening, I've asked our administrative team to meet at 8 p.m. tonight via Zoom, and we're going to talk about what type of supports we need to put into place for the schools tomorrow. I don't know what those are yet. We literally just found out about this 45 minutes ago, if that, and we've begun that conversation of meeting this evening at 8. And part of that will be what do we need to do immediately tomorrow, but also reconvening our support and safety team to talk about what it would be really too early to take the lessons learned from Texas, but what do we know about our existing practices today that we need to immediately shore up, or are we in okay shape? But we need to immediately have those conversations and make sure that there are not any gaps in our security protocols that we could immediately address, and what can we do, what do we need to do to protect student and staff safety from a physical standpoint and a social emotional standpoint immediately for tomorrow. And students are going to feel differently about this, whether they're in elementary school versus high school. It's going to hit them different ways, and it's going to hit teachers as well. So we need to make sure that those supports are in place for tomorrow. Outside of that, it's hard to talk about celebrations, but over the last 2 weeks, we've had a number of scholarships and induction ceremonies, and the number of students that have been inducted to these ceremonies have just been so high. I attended the math induction ceremony last night, the National Honor Society induction Thursday night, the scholarship award and the senior award ceremony on Wednesday night. There's the world language induction ceremony last Monday. I attended the superintendent student awards the week ago yesterday. The Connecticut scholar athlete was Sunday night. So it's a season of celebration for our students. So while we are in mourning tonight for the students and teacher in Texas, it's also a time to recognize that our students have done some amazing work over the course of the year, academically and athletically, and we're trying to showcase that and bring some celebration to what the students have succeeded with this year. One of the successes is something that we should be very proud of as a community. And that's what our staff at Quaker Farms pulled off yesterday. We have an amazing young child, kindergarten child. Her name is Liv. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor, cancer, earlier in the fall. Heroic work from our teacher to identify that there's a problem. Yesterday, we had hundreds and hundreds of parents and staff and kids, board members that came to the event. We had T-shirts, raffles, money just put into a box. I don't know all the revenues brought in. I do know that there's $2,109 that were brought in just for T-shirts alone. I'm still waiting for the final tally from the school, but it was amazing. I did send a thank you email to all parents and staff this afternoon. We're trying to encourage all staff and students to wear their shirt tomorrow across the district. So that'll be a nice sight to see. One of the things that Stephanie and I've had a conversation of is the value of us retaining membership in CABE. We know that we are moving away from that from a policy standpoint, but from a overall membership, what other value add is there? And we had a hard time coming up with the reasons why we should stay as members of CABE for next year. So we're looking at dropping our membership, so that would actually save us around $80, $100 per year by not being a member of CABE. So it's something that we're looking to move forward with, and we just want to let you know that. From a capital perspective, I met with George Temple last Wednesday. There is a state grant for $150 million for HVAC upgrades and air quality across the state. We're anticipating that's going to open up on July 1st. We don't have the specifics yet on the grant. What we do know is there will be a sliding scale based upon town. We're anticipating we're going to be in the return rate of somewhere between 35 and 45% most likely, which means that there's going to need to be a match at the local level. George Temple is prepared to bring that to a bond referendum if and when we get there. So we're preparing to move forward with what we need to have in place for the July 1 date when that does open up. I also had a conversation with Jack Kiley this morning. He called me. He believes that there'll be some additional funding that's available outside of the existing capital projects that just got approved. So he wants to meet with Anthony and I within the next few days or next week to generate some of those ideas. And I'm really looking at most likely probably upgrades to the bathrooms at Great Oak. And if there's any HVAC, we know we're facing some issues with the high school. So we need to compile that list. And then that would go back to the Board of Finance. And he's pretty certain that with the funds that are available, that we could have access to some capital repairs that were not originally on the table for next year. And I think that's why some of our requests were not placed on town vote. I think he knew that this was coming. He was waiting to get to that point. He also asked us to get the 2 projects that were approved up and running. That's the pool with the diving board, and that's the playground over at Quaker Farms. So we're going to start moving on that. Events coming up over the next week. Prom is Sunday night. It's going to be in New Haven at the Anthony's Ocean View. So that's Sunday evening. The students in the high school drama program were invited to the Halo Awards on June 2nd. So that's a whole number of students that participated in the musical and the play were included in that. So wishing them good luck. And the next week we have a number of concerts. We have the Great Oak Band and Chorus concert on June 2nd in the evening as well. We have Quaker Farms Field Day, I think on Thursday, and an 8th grade field trip on next Friday. We have the high school senior trip next Thursday. So there's a whole bunch of various events that are taking place over the next week. It's getting back to normal in the schools, which is good for the students to be engaged in these type of normal cultural rituals that would be expected at this time of the year. So that's a positive sign to see. I awarded the April Teacher of the Month. I'm trying to do a Teacher of the Month from my level superintendent. So my Teacher of the Month for April was Kelly Hoven. I kind of missed seeing her last few days. I finally got into her class this afternoon and wore that to her with her students in front of her, and the students all cheered her. Hoven. She's a 3rd grade teacher at Great Oak, so she was thrilled, and the kids were all so excited to celebrate with her. And then finally, we got some good news from a health insurance perspective this afternoon. We believe that we'll be able to switch carriers if we decide to do so and save around $69,000 to $80,000 in the process at a comparable carrier to the partnership plan. So we're just getting the details today. I just got a text from Anthony late this afternoon, so I need to really dive into that. But if that unfolds, that'll be very positive for us, and that would actually not only save the district funds, but also save at every staff member's pocket as well, because they pay a portion of health insurance. So it'd be a win-win for the district and for staff. So I still need to dive into those numbers with our insurance broker. I literally just got the text this afternoon. I need more information, but if that does come out, that'll be very positive.
Is this for comparative insurance? So we wouldn't have to renegotiate across all the.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah. And that's my report this evening, so thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing to report. Joe is not here. Anybody on facilities that wants to say? Yeah, you just did it. Okay, thank you, Joe. Deb, we just met for that curriculum.
Yeah, we just had a curriculum meeting at 5 o'clock. We talked about some surveys that were done for 7th and 8th grade parents. We wanted to try and get an idea of parents taking their kids out of district, what we could do to keep kids in district. So we went through those results. We talked about some of the class enrollment at the high school.
Can I just add into that? Can you share the survey with the rest of the board?
I'll do it.
Oh, Deb?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll send it to the rest of the board.
Whatever works.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the class schedules at the high school. They're starting to put together their master list. So we hopefully at our next meeting, which is June 13th, we'll have more feedback on that. And we tabled a whole bunch of stuff, so we'll bring that back at our next meeting on June 13th.
Nice job. Mike, finance?
Did we skip policy?
Oh, yes, I'm skipping everything
I'm
today.
just used to, we skip policy and then we.
I appreciate it.
Hitting the fast forward button
Oh,
tonight.
my gosh.
It's been rough this afternoon.
So this is a quick one. We have a meeting scheduled for June 2nd, so watch this space, more to come.
Okay. I knew she was gonna be quick. Thank you, Nicole. Liaison report? No, I'm joking. Finance?
So I have a few notes. We met Thursday, May 19th. It's a great meeting. We talked about the possibility of a surplus for the end of this year. And just to kind of emphasize, we want a surplus at the end of every year. It means that we properly manage the funds, because we never know. We always have to anticipate, worst case scenarios, and we want to be able to fund them. And so having a surplus is a good thing. It may not always happen, but we do our best to have something. The dollar amount is not fixed of how much we have, but I think it would, Stephanie, will you agree? Maybe start collecting some ideas, because in the month of June goes by very quickly, and we have to the end of June to spend the surplus so we give it back. Some money typically always goes towards supplies for next year. There's rules of what we can and can't spend it on, but the goal is that we want to spend it in things that advance the district, maybe lower operating expenses for next year to prepare for the 1,001 things that could go wrong. But it's also it's a way to invest, and maybe some might go towards security measures. I mean, how we spend it on where we need it, but taking input from the board would be greatly appreciated as we come together and put together a short list of things that can move quickly and can logistically work in that time frame. So there's that. We talked about class funds and making sure that we spend down those class funds before the class graduates. There might be some handoff to policy potentially for us to come up with, whether it's a policy or it's a handbook, where we talk about the process and making sure that we don't have leftover funds that aren't spent. We talked about Chromebook insurance. The district currently pays for Chromebook insurance. It's very valuable in the sense that if they break a Chromebook, We don't have to service it in-house, we can send it out and it either gets repaired or replaced. At this point, no family has to pay for it. If we were to pass it out to families, it'd be $25 to $27. And for next fiscal year, we're not looking to pass it on to families, but there's the possibility that in the future, it may transition. We came up with a hit list of budget reductions, many recommendations from building administrators, nothing that involves cutting staff or programs, but there's looking at retirement impacts to the budget that help lower our operating expense. Liability insurance, Chromebooks being paid for by a grant for replacement instead of coming from the budget. So there are several cuts and nips and tucks here and there. Sometimes if someone retires, we may be able to hire someone at a lower level. Not in a bad way. We always look for the best fit, but usually someone's at the top step, we hire someone potentially not at the top step. So all in all, we look like we're going to have a balanced budget and be able to overcome the $205,000 that we didn't get funded, and we're in good shape. I'm guessing we're going to need to meet to discuss several things, whether it's the insurance, the spending the surplus, if there is a surplus. So we probably will have to have a meeting in the next week or 2 weeks.
Yes, we're ready to discuss.
The surplus, the insurance, we need to make a decision on that. And there's a couple other salary-related MOUs that we need to iron out. So my assumption is we'll meet prior to the next board meeting, so we're ready for the next meeting.
Great.
And then there's one other component financially, that is the food services contract, which we should have the RFP back in time prior to that meeting. But the state also announced today that we are eligible for an extension as well, if we wanted to extend 1 more year. So we'll see what the results come in, make a decision to that point.
You had a thought of a surplus this year, so that doesn't include the $70,000 switch in insurance
The insurance would affect us for next year. The surplus is
Okay.
only for this.
for next year.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nice job, Finance Committee. Any liaison reports? Booster Club, PTO.
PTO had their elections last week, and I believe they had their plant sale on the 19th, so I think that went well. Rob, you probably-
It went phenomenal, based on what you told me. They sold a lot of plants, more than they expected, raised a lot of money for both the PTO for the schools and for the organization. So my assumption is that this gardeners will want to do this again with the PTO, but it was a phenomenal success. We had students at both Red Oak and Quaker Farms that went out for the entire 2 days to get plants, and they were available late afternoon and evening. So it was a great success.
One of the, at their, at the meeting is fundraising, trying to get more people involved in their activities and trying to think of different fundraisers, because they used to do the auction, but they haven't run it in 2 years. And now that we're somewhat back to normal, the schools are making requests. So they're trying to think of different ways to raise the money. So, and to get some new parents involved in the process, because some are on their way to high school.
Moving on.
So I'm still there.
You're not-
Same board in place?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
They made a couple minor changes, but that's-
Yeah, they changed, I think the treasurer changed, and the secretary moved to treasurer, and then there's other people that moved along, so. So it was pretty much the same. There weren't a lot of people knocking, but they're doing a great job.
Anything else?
No.
For Oasis, they contacted Dr. Miller about doing a survey at the high school. We discussed it at our what meeting? Okay. So what we decided to do is look at all of the questions and then decide, well, we were going to get back to Oasis. We felt that there were possibly some pretty personal and invasive questions that we weren't comfortable with. So I believe you're contacting Vinny at Oasis. Is this a one package deal, take it or leave it, or can we customize it? And I don't think we have the answer for that yet. And they have done the survey before. I don't know if it was every year. And quite frankly, I don't know if it was the exact same survey, but, you know, now once you look at things and, you know, just kind of say, wow, is that really anybody's business? Asking that question. So we'll get back to you on that. Other than that, anything else with any liaison people? All right, then I am proud to adjourn, motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:04.
Second.
And motion carried. So there you go.